When I worked at a major medical center, my boss was in charge of a lot of different departments, one of which was ICU. And she sent me up to ICU one day and said, help them with their computer. Now, I was not an IT personnel. I was a secretary. But because I had a lot of understanding on computers and how they operated, and that was her department, and I was her secretary, I got sent up there. So what happened was the computer had froze. It was not functioning. And in ICU, you can only imagine that that's a pretty important thing. They needed to have that computer to pull up forms, print forms, all sorts of things, okay? So I sit down and I do a little troubleshooting, and I'm like, when was the last time you turned off this computer? And they said, we don't turn off our computer. They looked at me like I had two heads, like, what are you talking about? I said, every time you turn a computer off, it speaks to the main computer in the hospital, and all the updates to keep up with all of the growing computer knowledge and all of that stuff. They do updates. They push them. They're called pushing. They push them out so that every time you turn off your computer, they will update it. It'll pull in an update from the main computer, wherever that is. We all sometimes we hear the cloud. Okay, so you have to then when you turn it back on, it pulls in any updates that have been, so that your software is always updated. And the reason that I'm teaching about this particular topic is because we can go a long time and never shut off. We can shut off, we can just go and just keep running. And in one aspect for soul training on that topic, our bodies can't operate that way. They have to shut down. Your brain has to stop thinking. And if you have a racing mind like I used to, it's very debilitating. It is very hard because I would lay and stare at my ceiling all the time. I couldn't rest. My body is angry at me. Trust me, my body now cannot function the same way it used to. I used to get up in the morning very early and I could go all day long and just nail it. You know, I could do my job, I could come home, I could cook, I could clean, whatever. And then I would just drop in bed. The problem is that the body is not going to tolerate that. If you don't keep updating it, if you don't keep it updated, if you don't keep feeding it right, giving it rest, turning it off, and letting it get that upload, download from our Creator through Christ Jesus, who it resets us at night. There are times people have woken up and they just were different in the morning, and it's like God put them under for surgery. And something's different, and they know it. They know it either physically in their body or their soul, their emotions, whatever. That has happened to me. I've had updates from the Lord where I woke up and something that I carried around for a long time was gone. And so he also resets the mind. And so it says joy comes in the morning. And so joy comes in the morning because you're refreshed, because the joy of the Lord is your strength. The joy of the Lord is what Jesus said, I want you to share in my joy. He didn't just do this to pay for our debts. He didn't come down and just pay the bill. He came down to say, hey, I'm a king. I'm inheriting a kingdom, and I want you as my friends, I want you to enjoy this with me. Enter into your rest. That's what he's going to say someday to us. And so we already can enter into his rest now. It's not just one day in the future, but when our flesh is gone and we have our new bodies. But the point is that this computer in the ICU that I was sent to fix, I just said, okay, if I turn this off, you're not going to be able to use it until all the updates come in. And because you've never turned it off, you're like beyond. It's going to you're just not going to have a computer. So you're going to have to call the IT department, and they're going to have to come up and bring an updated computer with all the updates so that you can function. But this computer you can't use until it's completely pulled up. And you've done it for so long that now the computer itself is probably outdated. And the software is definitely outdated, because I knew that they had something like three upgrades in the Microsoft programming that they used. So, or the Windows, I should say. There's a Windows operating system that has different versions, of course, and then there are the software that you use on that. So I just gave them the diagnosis. Here I am in ICU telling doctors and nurses the diagnosis of what they have done. And it was kind of ironic, to be honest with you. But I'm saying this now because I am saying the same to the body of Christ through this message. So you have to get these uploads from Christ, and you have to get these downloads from him, and you have to rest. You have to shut down. If you do not shut down, if you don't be still, you won't know he's God. And so it's one of these things that you have to be still. It's not even just meditating, and it's not just being still for a moment, but you have to get to a place where you allow him to download to you and to update, your software. The software is basically your everyday thinking. Your operating system is your soul, your heart, your emotions, your mind. That's the operating system that operates the software. Now, we all have apps on our phone. Let me put it more simply. We have apps on our phone. Some of you use apps I don't use. I don't need them. You don't need the apps that I need. So you see, the apps that you download are things that you are interested in. Let's say you do Amazon Prime, or let's say you do one for Quickstar. I just came to my mind because we just saw Quickstar has an app. Everybody has an app, okay? Everybody wants your dollars, trust me. And so, but, you can get an app for your medical system, your medical doctor, your hospital system, whatever that you're in. It could be anything. So I don't need all the apps that you have, and you don't need all the apps that I have. So in that way, we are running on different software. But we all have the same operating system, and that is the body, the soul, and the spirit. And so we all have, the body and the soul is the operating system of the spirit. And that's what functions in this world, and we have to keep it at optimal operations. You can't just be spiritual and not be physical. You can't be physical and just spiritual. You can't be emotional and not be physical, and etc. You see what I'm saying? We've got it all mixed up because that's the enemy messing with the software. He's programming things into us. Now, the word programming is very interesting. I'll talk about that in the next teaching, but we are all programmed, guaranteed. If you have a screen in your hand, if you have a screen on your wall, in your home, if you're pumping your gas, there's a screen speaking to you. Okay, these are all words. These are all programming words. These are words to make you think a certain way. This is why we take captive every thought to the obedience of Christ, because if he says it's okay, and his command, and we're obeying it, one of which I'm just going to touch on briefly is be anxious for nothing. Instead, pray about everything. That's in Philippians 4. But also Jesus said, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to take care of itself. It has plenty of worries waiting for you, okay? There's plenty to worry about tomorrow. Focus on today. Because when we live in yesterday or tomorrow, we are not functioning today. We are stuck in the past, or we are worried about the future. And that's where the devil wants us. All he can do is distract you. All he can do is present a different argument, like he did to Eve. Hey, God didn't say this. He didn't say you couldn't eat it. He just doesn't want you to be like him. Like, if you were like him, then you would know. So, what his marketing pitch in the garden to Eve was a marketing pitch of knowledge. You need to know something, okay? So, anyway, get your downloads, shut off your computer, your brain computer, let your body rest. Let your soul rest. Give your emotions a rest. You've got to get upgrades and updates regularly from the Lord. So that's my teaching for this particular message, and I hope that helps. I hope I gave you some good analogies, and that you'll be able to take that and whatever you need and leave the rest. Love ya.